What's up everybody, Toy Addict 26 here, back again, and I'm here for another review to share with you guys. Today, we're taking a look at Thundercats Ultimate's Wave 5 Vultureman by Super 7 Toys. This is a review sample that I just received, and I'm super excited. I was on vacation, and I received it about 4 days ago, so I've been dying to get to this review. These are shipping now from Super 7 direct to customers, and also Entertainment Earth has been shipping them as well. So it's an awesome time to be a Thundercats fan. Let's go ahead and jump into this review. So here he is, folks, right out of the package and looking extra amazing in his window box prison, soon to be revealed and removed from here. But man, just the first impression of this thing in hand is everything I expected and more. He brings the alternate head, tons of awesome accessories, alternate hands, and the paint looks super on point and very clean. The back of the package, of course, features the traditional character bio. This time it's got some awesome Vultureman painting, including some information about the character underneath. This is really awesome, the character bio aspect, because it's something that harkens to the toy lines of the 80s where they always had the character bios. Only one thing that I think would strongly improve on this line would be to have some sort of not a checklist, but like a gallery, collect them all of all the figures that have come out so far. That's one thing that I've been dying to see in collections, toy collections, action figure lines such as this. Mattel did it with Motu Classics, and it was awesome. It was brilliant. And I wish I were to see that in upcoming Thundercats Ultimates figures. But let's go ahead and take a look at this awesome figure out of the package and check out all his accessories, paint apps, and articulation. The package consists of two blisters. The front blister includes the figure and several accessories, alternate head, while the back blister features this additional weapon and the interchangeable hands. This is what I call an Ultimates figure. This figure has so much awesome stuff packed in with it, including a mutant gun, an additional gun. He has these really awesome goggles. He includes the voice imitator, which are really off the wall kind of random accessories, that make sense because they're used by the character in certain episodes. Then he's got all these really cool tools. He's got a screwdriver, he's got a wrench, and he's got pliers. And then he has the superpower potion. Another awesome thing about this is this figure in particular, instead of having just duplicate hands, it actually has a hand that is open up wide enough to hold the superpower potion. So that's awesome. The fact that, they went ahead and thought it out and gave us a unique hand to hold a specific accessory. He's got, the figure comes packed with the trigger finger hand on the right arm, and he's got a semi-closed grip hand on the left arm. He's got a total of 3 pairs of hands. Here's another hand that I believe can hold the superpower potion. It's a little more closed in, but yeah, perfect. So he's got those 2 hands. The first one I showed just seems to be a little more open. I'm not sure if that's meant to be like that, but yeah, actually after looking at it more closely, it looks like it's an identical thing. So identical hands in that sense. Well, this finger seems to be a little more open, where on this hand, the hands seem to be coming in almost symmetrically, but very similar nonetheless. So he's got all those extra hands. He's got this really cool weapon Not quite sure what they call this, but it looks awesome. It's like a grabbing hook. It almost looks like a dental tool as well. Just a very cool, unique weapon. It's made of a rigid plastic, not too rigid, but it's not rubbery, which is a good thing. It's a pretty light plastic. The alternate head, the Screaming Angry alternate head, looks amazing. Paint apps are clean. The sculpt work by the Horseman is fantastic. This thing looks like it just popped right out of a 1980s VHS copy or your Hulu TV screen if you're watching it at home. It's just fantastic. I love the way they sculpted the tongue curling up on the head, and then you could see on the inside, you can see the striations on the top of the mouth. Just super, super detailed. It's animated, but yet it has so much detail that it's not like when they do typical animation-based toys that they go really flat on the colors and stuff. No, this thing has airbrushing. It has a lot of amazing deco. The main head that comes with Vultureman is the more stoic, more serious, I would say like museum pose head. Still looks fantastic. Got some really nice airbrushing there. The body itself, you could see there's like the flesh, there's like striations across the flesh that make it look like a skin type of texture. And then you've got the airbrushing to bring out the sculpt really nicely. The fur on the shoulders is painted very clean. It's mostly like a sienna brown, but then it has some dry brushing underneath. The rest of the body, including the skirt, is painted very clean. The application on the belt buckle and everything, the paint apps are very, very clean. This is the quality that we've come to expect since Wave 4. So, you know, I know with Tigra and Chitara, we had some issues. I believe Tigra was done at the factory that Wave 3 was done. I'm not quite sure what happened with some of the things, like in my Tigra review, if you notice, not Tigra, Chitara, where there was dents on the side of her torso because the twist tie was so tight, and I guess the figure was still kind of warm and soft when they were packaging her. But I don't notice any type of issues like that with Vultureman, and I'm so glad, because this is a figure that people have been expecting for a very long time, and Super 7 really delivered. This thing is so freaking awesome. So one thing that gonna address the elephant in the room is these spikes, these talons. In the cartoons, in the original, you know, even the Rankin Bass character sheets, the talon is supposed to be here. Is, you know, this is just like an avian. This is a bird, so it's supposed to have the talon right here at the heel. When I addressed this with Brian in one of my recent interviews, what he mentioned is that if they were to put the talon here, it would have hindered the range of motion on the ankle. Because if you notice, if you were to have a talon here, sticking out here, then it would hit the ground and it would just, I don't know, it would just like be like in an awkward stance. They could have done it, like they could have arched the foot more and put the talon back here. But, you know, it was a creative decision to add the talons, but just put them in a different anatomical location, unlike what people are used to seeing. Is it character or cartoon accurate? Absolutely not. Is it a deal breaker? Is it something that is going to say, oh shit, I don't want this figure anymore because they put the freaking talons at the beginning of the calves? Absolutely not. It's not a big deal. If you don't even want to look at them, they're in the back. so you don't even have to look at them. I can understand the creative decision. You know, there's a lot of people that chime in on these things. It's not just Brian Flynn that makes these decisions. There's a lot of creatives in the team, and cohesively, I guess they decided on that. Another thing that will be probably an argumentative topic amongst Thundercats fans is the decision to make this cut here at the shoulders, where the fur sits. I can understand that they did it to give you more range of motion on the arms. So you can see you could bring Vultureman's arms this high up thanks to the cut, right? And it's cut on the back as well for that reason. What I would have done, would I be a toy designer, is I would have had some sort of hinge joints here on the shoulders mounted and had this whole piece attached to that hinge joint so that you could just hinge this whole solid piece up to bring up the arm versus having that kind of awkward looking ugly cut on the shoulder pads. But again, is it a deal breaker? Is it a reason for me not to buy this figure? Absolutely not. You know, if you're gonna have this figure in a museum pose, you can always like glue this piece if you're not planning on doing anything dramatic, and you're basically on this side you could barely see the cut, and here you see it a little more. It's more visible. But again, these are not things in any way that destroy the final product or make it not desired in any which way or form. I think the figure came out amazing. It's awesome to have this figure in hand. And of course, let's jump into articulation. Ultraman is, I would have to say, he is one of the few and in between characters that have been done in this line that has an amazing and fluid range of motion on the head. And this is particularly lended by the fact that, you know, he has no hair. So that really gives the head a lot of range of motion. Like, for example, he can look up that much and look down this much. You don't really get that from a lot of Thundercats figures, mainly because there's either a headpiece or a crown or hair. I love the range of motion on this particular neck piece, where you can angle the head to get those interesting, like, inquisitive expressions. It's just amazing, the fluidity of the head. And it's the same type of neck peg. It's the same dumbbell neck peg, nothing different other than the fact that there's nothing around the head that hinders the range of motion. And it makes a world of difference. As I showed you before with the shoulder pads, the arms, if the shoulder pads weren't there, they would, you know, you could do a perfect T, but this is about as high as you're going to be able to go with the shoulder pad cuts. He's got swivel hinged joints at the interior shoulder. He's got a bicep cut, which is not very visible, but because of the shoulder pad, but it's right there. So that's really awesome. It's got an additional point of articulation. We don't have bicep cuts on all the figures. The elbows have a hinge and a swivel, and the wrists also have a hinge and a swivel. All the joints on the arms are very nice and tight. As we travel into the torso area, we have not necessarily a ball socket. We have like a, we have kind of like a ball type of joint in the midsection. We don't have an ab crunch. It does do a very slight ab crunch like that and goes back that much. But what I like is that you can do some angular movement as well, like so. So not a lot in there, but still it's there, you know what I mean? Then the skirt is cut on the sides, allowing the legs to go out this much. Almost a full split. And they are on the ball hinge joints with the swivel on the interior of the groin. On the knees, we have the hinge and a swivel. This joint works a lot better with some figures than others. With Vultureman, you see how it kind of like goes into here, but it doesn't look awkward. It looks like a natural pose. So I guess it lends on the fact of the anatomy for Vultureman, that it really kind of complements that type of articulation. And then last but not least, on the ankles, we've got a hinge, and then we've got the rocker joint, which allows for those angular poses. So all in all, he's got really good, nice, beefy articulation. I think it's awesome that we have now the addition of the bicep cut, the bicep swivel cut, because that's something that would, it really helps for the range of motion and to do dynamic poses for figures. So the only things that hinder the articulation on the shoulder is the shoulder pads, but then we've got those kind of awkward looking cuts that help the shoulders come up. On the skirt, it doesn't look as bad. It's just a cut. It doesn't really look horrible, but those shoulder pads do, it is a little bit of an eyesore in a way when you look at it and you see those gaps, because this is supposed to be fur, and the fact that it's cut like a piece of cake, it's kind of weird. Like I said, paint apps are awesome. Here's a shot of the back. I love how the fur lays over the back there. Just all in all, this figure is rock solid. I want to say that out of all the Thundercats that have come out, this guy, I would say he's one of my top ranked figures in comparison with Monkian, Slythe, and of course Mumra Ever Living, which is my all-time favorite. All right, so here we have Vultureman standing with all the Mighty Mutants, and as you can see, it's a very varied height, in the sense of, I would say the shortest of them all, of course, is Slythe because of his physique and form, but he is 100% cartoon accurate. Then we move on to Jackalman. Jackalman is what I would say phase one of Thundercats, which was when Mattel was doing the whole thing, and they were basically just building up those Motu bodies and just making them look like Thundercats characters. As we go into Super 7, we see things like Monkey in here and Vultureman, which do not really have borrowed bodies from Motu classics anymore. Everything is 100% brand new tooling from the head to the toes. So, possibly if Super 7 were to have made Jackalman, he would have been a little bit larger. He wouldn't have had the same proportions as we have with, for example, Lion-O and Panthro, which were also Mattel bucks that used a very high percentage of the Motu Classics body bucks for tooling purposes and budgeting. With this, with Super 7, which is something that's so awesome, is that we're getting these really beefed up 100% sculpted figures every time we get one out the gate. So Vultureman looks slightly taller than Monkian. I tried to stand Monkian as straight as possible. It looks like, let's see. Yeah, he's slightly taller. Put him back to back here so you can get a better. Here's the thing, Vultureman never really stands straight. So if you were to stand him straight, he's about this tall. Next to Monkian, which is standing straight as well. But you can see They're very similar. It's just like a little hair that Vultureman is above Monkey in. And, you know, the original solicitation images of Vultureman for Wave 5 made him look like a giant. He looked almost as big as Mumra the Ever-Living. And of course, as you can see now, that is not the case. So here we have a comparison with Thundercats, and we can see that Vultureman is definitely much larger than Lion-O. I know that a lot of people are not going to like that too much, but to me, it's not a big deal because honestly, the way I see Vultureman, and then Chitara, of course, is tiny next to Vultureman, but he is, keyword, a mutant. So he's got a mutated body. But the way I'm going to pose my Vultureman is where he's going to be more in the hunched down type of form. And that makes him, it's just because of that, the shoulder pads, it makes him look so much bigger. But if you look at the top of Vultureman's head, Lion-O's hair is a little bit above that. So again, the way I would pose my Vultureman, I wouldn't pose him straight up. I would pose him almost like kind of looking down like this, kind of like hunched over. So I think he's perfectly fine. If they made him shorter, when you would hunch him down, then he would be getting close to the height of Slythe, and then that would look weird. So I don't have an issue with the height at all. And absolutely, he is not a giant as it was perceived in his original solicitation imagery. So, you know, now you can rest assured that Vultureman has a good height on him, and he'll look great on the shelf displayed with the rest of your figures. So that's pretty much it for this review. Thanks again for watching. Keep it locked here on Toy Addict 26 and, of course, Thundercats Classics on Instagram and on Facebook for the latest Thundercats Ultimates news and everything else Super 7. Keep it locked, and I'll be reviewing the rest of Wave 5 following up very shortly. I'll see you in the toy house.